Hello, I'm Amy the Bunny Lady, and this is my partner Elusive, Ellie for short. High five. Good job. Good job. And today we're going to go over one of the most common rabbit illnesses that is called Snuffles. If you are new to our channel, welcome. We give tips and tricks for how to make sure you have a happy and healthy bunny in your home. So if that's the kind of thing that you're interested in, go ahead and hit that subscription button and the notification bell next to it so you never miss any of our weekly videos. Snuffles is an upper respiratory infection in rabbits. It will usually affect the nose, and sometimes it can actually get to the lungs as well. Most of the symptoms of Snuffles end up looking like something similar to a human cold. However, for rabbits, it can actually be a very serious illness. And if it's not taken care of and they don't get the medical help that they need, it can end up being fatal. If you get no other information from this video, know that if you see cold-like symptoms in your rabbit, you want to get them to the vet right away because they can recover. They can get an antibiotic because Snuffles is a bacterial infection. They can get an antibiotic, and most of the time they can recover if it is caught in time. So if you get nothing else from this video, nothing else from what I'm going to talk about, that's what you should get. If you notice that your rabbit looks like they have a cold, bring them to the vet right away. Let's go over the common symptoms of Snuffles in rabbits so that you know what to look for and you can get your rabbit help if you notice any of these symptoms. The first one that I'll go over is just sneezing. If your rabbit is sneezing a lot, there's a chance that this is a symptom of a respiratory infection. Now, this isn't the only reason that rabbits could sneeze. They can also sneeze if like dust gets into their nose, like from the hay that they're eating. They can also sneeze if they're allergic to something. They can just randomly sneeze every once in a while, like the same way people do. Sometimes there's not really an apparent cause, but they sneeze. So really what you're looking for is frequent sneezing, and frequent sneezing that also has discharge from your rabbit's nose. And I will get to that in just a bit because there are certain types of discharge that you want to look for. But know that sneezing in itself is not necessarily a bad thing, but sneezing combined with many of these other symptoms on the list is what you want to look out for. Watery eyes is another common symptom of Snuffles. This is again one of those symptoms that might not mean that your rabbit has Snuffles. It kind of depends on the other symptoms that your rabbit has as well. If they just have watery eyes, it may be that one of their tear ducts is blocked, or it could be some kind of eye infection instead. But if they have watery eyes in combination with many of these other symptoms, then it is very likely to be Snuffles, and you want to make sure you get your rabbit help ASAP. One of the things that you really do want to look out for that will almost always mean that your rabbit has some kind of respiratory infection is discharge from their nose. This could be a thin liquid coming out. That's usually a sign that it is the early stages of Snuffles, whereas if it is a thicker, more snot-like discharge from their nose, that means that it's often a later stage in the Snuffles and your rabbit already has a more serious infection. If your rabbit sneezes, check to see if there's discharge from their nose, and that can give you an idea of whether or not they have Snuffles. One very hidden sign of Snuffles that can actually be one of the earliest signs that you will see is if they have matted fur on the inside of their paws. Because you see the way rabbits clean themselves, they'll clean their face, is they'll use their front paws and they'll wipe it all on like their nose and their eyes. So a lot of times you won't see the watery eyes, you won't see the snotty nose because your rabbit has already wiped it away. But instead what you will see is like a sticky matted mess inside their front paws, and that can clue you into that there's something unusual about their eyes or nose. Maybe they have an eye infection, maybe they have Snuffles, but that's something that's an early sign usually that you can kind of start to figure out that there's something wrong here. So if you see your rabbit has matted fur inside their front paws, you want to look for any other symptoms to help you figure out if this is Snuffles. If the infection gets further along before you notice it, you may notice something like difficulty breathing. Since this is a respiratory infection, it can affect the rabbit's respiratory tract, so their nose, their lungs, their breathing. So if you notice difficulty breathing, that's a good sign that there's something wrong and they have some kind of infection that needs treatment. Difficulty breathing in rabbits will often look like either taking wheezing breaths, like you'll actually hear them wheezing, or it may look like them trying to breathe through their mouth. Now, rabbits are nasal breathers, so normally a healthy rabbit will be breathing through their nose and not their mouth. So if you see that your rabbit looks like they are trying to breathe through their mouth, their lips will be going out and in, then that's a sign that they are struggling to breathe, and it's likely a respiratory infection or snuffles. Because rabbits will try to breathe through their mouths when they have snuffles, they will also likely start drooling. So normally rabbits do not drool. They're not like dogs or some cats that's a normal thing. Since rabbits only breathe through their nose, drooling is really only something that will happen if there's something wrong with their breathing or if there's something wrong with their teeth. So if you ever notice your rabbit drooling, then that is an indication that there's something wrong with their health and they need to see a doctor, whether it be snuffles or something wrong with their teeth. Now, if your rabbit, again, is a sloppy drinker, you may notice that there's wetness under their chin after they've had a drink. But if there is at any other time, then this can be an indication of a health problem such as snuffles. Like with most rabbit illnesses, if they start to feel sick, they will have a lack of appetite, they won't be eating as much, they might not come up to you for a treat. So this is one of those main things that you want to look out for, especially if your rabbit absolutely loves to eat. You want to, keep an eye on them, make sure that they're eating all of their food. If for some reason they're not, then that is definitely an indication that they have some sort of health problems. Really, this can be an indication of just about any rabbit illness. So this, in combination with many of the other items that you see on this list, is what will clue you into it being snuffles or something else. If your rabbit is not eating at all, then that is an emergency situation and you need to get your rabbit to the vet as soon as possible, because rabbit health depends on the constant movement of their digestive system. You will also likely notice loss of energy. Your rabbit won't be as active as they usually are. Again, this is a symptom of just about any rabbit illness. If they have less energy than usual, that is a sign that you need to pay attention to, because a lot of times rabbits try to hide the signs of their illness. In the wild, this would be a protective measure, because by hiding their illness, they're less likely to get picked off by a predator. As house pets, that means we have to watch them very closely for any changes in their behavior so that we can figure out if they're sick or not. If your rabbit has snuffles and they have watery eyes and a snotty nose or watery nose, then you will also probably see sores around their face, because especially the longer it goes on, the more water that just ends up sitting on their face, the more likely that the fur is going to end up rubbing away. They'll also likely be cleaning themselves more with their paws, so the fur is going to rub away. All of that irritation is going to end up causing some sores. So that's another thing to look out for, to see if your rabbit has snuffles or not. And then the other thing that you might notice, it's a little bit unusual, and you're not going to see this all the time, but it's something called head tilt in rabbits. So it is when they tilt their head to the side like this, and it just stays there. It happens likely because of an imbalance in your rabbit's skull. This is when the infection gets into your rabbit's skull and causes it to become like a little wonky. So your rabbit will be kind of hopping around like this. Oftentimes they won't have any balance or anything like that. So they'll like hop in circles, they'll fall over, and their head will just be at this weird angle. Sometimes your rabbit will recover their head tilt after they recover from the snuffles, but sometimes this ends up being how they permanently are. I mean, they can still live like this. Their balance will be a little bit wonky, but sometimes it can heal and sometimes it doesn't. If you believe your rabbit has snuffles, the first thing that you want to do is make an appointment with your vet as soon as possible, because the sooner you get your rabbit the help that they need, the more likely they are to recover. So you definitely want to give your vet a call, make an appointment so that you can get them the medication. If you can make an appointment for today, definitely go today. The next thing you want to do is to make sure that you keep your rabbit warm and clean. So a lot of times when rabbits get sick, their body temperature starts to drop, which ends up causing a bunch of other health problems. So as their body temperature drops, they'll start to eat less, their digestion won't work as well, and then it will kind of be a cycle where then their body temperature will drop some more, and that can actually be pretty dangerous for rabbits. So you want to make sure that you keep your rabbit warm, either wrap them in a towel and hold them, or put a heating pad next to them. can really help keep their body temperature up. And also you want to try and keep their nasal passage clear. You don't want it to get blocked by snot or something like that. So what you can do is take a damp cotton ball, Q-tip, something like that, and wipe the snot away from their nose if it's kind of crusting on or there's a lot of it there, and that can help keep their nasal passage open and help keep them breathing. And the next thing you can do is just reduce stress for your rabbits. Now see, a lot of the time the bacteria that causes snuffles in rabbits does actually live in their nasal passage even when they don't have snuffles. It's just inactive, or it's not a problem. It hasn't been multiplying to the point where it's a problem. But since it's already there, if your rabbit gets stressed out, a lot of times it can cause an outbreak essentially, and it can make the bacteria multiply and cause snuffles. So the less stressed that your rabbit is, the better off they are. So even if your rabbit doesn't have any signs of snuffles right now, or only has symptoms where you're not sure if that's what it is, reducing stress can really help in preventing it or keeping it from becoming more of a problem or escalating quickly. And then the next thing you want to do is try to prevent the spread of any illness. So try to make sure you're washing your hands frequently, cleaning your clothes. If you are touching a rabbit, make sure you don't touch any other rabbit. If you have two rabbits that are living together, two bonded rabbits, some people will say you should separate them to try to prevent it from spreading. But the reality is, if one of your rabbits is showing symptoms for snuffles, the other rabbit probably already has the bacteria in their respiratory system. As I said, for many rabbits, it's already living there to begin with, and it's already kind of been passed from rabbit to rabbit if they're living together. So keeping them separate is not actually going to prevent the spread. However, you do want to keep from spreading it to rabbits that are outside of the in-group. You can keep bonded rabbits together because they can comfort each other, and likely it has already been spread. When you bring the rabbit who has snuffles in to the vet, it's a good idea to bring in your other rabbit as well, so that you can check with your veterinarian and see what their advice is about how to monitor your second rabbit. Even though this is a deadly illness, if you catch it in time, your rabbits can recover. If you want more information about illnesses in rabbits and how to tell if they're sick, then check out my Is My Rabbit Sick video, because a lot of times they really do hide the signs of illness, so it can be really helpful to know what subtle signs to look for so that you can get your rabbit help in time and you don't end up waiting till like they are super sick before finally bringing them to the vet. With that said, thank you so much for watching, and I do hope that we will see you next week.